rock and roll Shin-Soo Choo, episode number 27. My name is Gabe Estel. I'm here with my co-hosts Jonathan Getz and Dennis Levi Leach. How's it going, guys?
Good.
All right.
Glad to be back with you. All right. Well, let's get right into it. Leading off with kind of basically, we haven't recorded here in about 2 weeks, so a little over 2 weeks, I think. So, for both of your teams, still doing well, right? My team, we're getting better.
You're inching back into it.
Yeah. The only thing is, though, we're losing right now as we speak, and then also we've lost the last 2 games to Cleveland. But prior to that, we had won 6 straight. So that's
Cleveland's a good team.
Supposed to be.
Well, they've what's that?
Supposed to be.
But yeah, I mean they've started off rocky, but I think they're getting better.
I thought they looked good against the Cardinals.
Yeah,
And
I mean
they did interleague play.
right.
Yeah.
They've had a few series here and there, but I mean like overall they've been I mean they're still a few games, but I mean we've played basically a quarter of the season, So if that, we haven't played
we're about the quarter mark.
Yeah, so, I mean, I picked Cleveland to go to the World Series, so I'm hopeful that they don't. I'm hopeful the White Sox obviously catapult into first place. I don't know if that's going to happen.
It's such an interesting division, especially with Minnesota doing what they're doing.
Right, that's the thing. I want to talk about that, and then we'll talk about our other teams as well. I mean, May 21st, as we record this, I mean, Tampa Bay is good for some reason, somehow. As Jonathan mentioned, the Twins are doing much better than people expected. The Astros, right? Yeah. I mean, the Astros are the Astros are one of the best teams in baseball so far.
So, and this is like a really lame thing to say, but when I was making my predictions, I thought about the Astros for a moment. And, of course, everybody can say this, but
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. But, I thought maybe they were a year or 2 away. But no, I guess they're not.
Well, I mean, I think everybody knew they had some young talent there. It just, everybody didn't think it would be ready this soon. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dallas
I wouldn't
Keuchel, man.
Two facts at the quarter mark of the season that I wouldn't have put money on was that D. Gordon was going to be batting over 380.
The dude's killing.
And Bryce Harper, he's like
MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because
D.
Bryce
Gordon
Harper had kind of started, people were kind of like, oh, is it, he's been in the league 3 years and he's had flashes of brilliance.
Right, but he's been kind of injured.
He's been inconsistent, he's been injured, but now
you started to wonder.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And D. Gordon, a week ago, 10 days ago, he was batting 440.
Yeah.
So the dude must have gone 0 for 12, and now he's down to 380.
Yeah. Yeah, the D. Gordon's he's having a Rod Carew season so far.
Yeah. Down there with the struggling, disappointing Marlins.
Which that's another thing I want to mention. Dude, that's so Marlins what they did with firing the manager and then putting a guy who's never managed anything beyond high school in his place.
Well, they're going to need someone to fire at the end of the season.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
That's basically what it's going to be. Yeah.
So odd. And I never really understood why a lot of people were picking the Marlins anyway to make such an impact that they would even contend for the World Series.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
People picking them that high?
Yeah.
I saw those.
Yeah. I saw World Series predictions for the Marlins.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew people thought they would be decent because, they made some moves. They got D. Gordon. They got Latos. They got a couple other
people on the Buster Only podcast at the beginning of the season picked the Marlins.
Yeah, so obviously I don't see that happening now.
Yeah.
But excuse me. But the Cubs, we'll go there. Looking good still, man.
Not playing bad baseball,
Not playing bad, right.
Keeping it going. I guess the best 3 words would be consistently slightly above average. That's 4 words. So.
Okay,
Hyphen.
Right.
Yeah, hyphen. Consistently slightly above average. That's how they've been lately. And it's good, especially for all the young guys that are coming together. We got rid of Castillo. holding our third catcher. We got a pitcher for him who I think they've sent to like start in AAA.
Where'd you guys trade Castillo to?
Is it, I believe, the Mariners?
Okay, he's in Seattle, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
I think. Yeah, I can double check that. But
I think it was the Mariners. Yeah, I'll check for you.
It was the Mariners, and it's not a huge name pitcher by any means that we got for him.
It's a prospect, I assume. Right?
I want to say it's a left-hander, but I can't.
It was to the Mariners, and it was for the right-handed Yorvis Medina.
Yorvis. I knew it was a
26
Y.
years old.
Not familiar with him.
Yeah.
He's all right. He's all right. 3 ERA, 1 save in 12 games for the Mariners.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the basically, after, I think we DFA'd Coke, so, yeah, and so we're basically trying to fill gaps in our bullpen.
Right.
Yeah. Which has been not as good as it was last year.
That's your hole. If you've got one. I mean, the offense and defense looks good, and the rotations, pretty good.
We've and they were talking about it earlier in the Chicago Sports Talk on Comcast. We've gotten into a habit lately, though, with like our number 4 and 5 guy, to where we're like pulling them in like the 5th. Yeah. So like it's really taxing the bullpens.
Sure.
And so then you're expecting your 1, 2, 3 guys to try and go like 8 and 9 innings and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, the Cubs are going to be buyers this year.
If anything, hopefully we'll be able to get somebody decent at the trade deadline.
Yeah. The only thing about
Cole
that,
Hamels.
I was thinking about this. See, that's the thing. I was thinking about this earlier today, right? I mean, the big names available are going to be Johnny Cueto, Cole Hamels, and I mean they're not going to get Cueto because that would be an in-division trade. You know, that rarely happens. And the Reds aren't that good, but they're not like totally awful and out of it by any means. Yeah. So that's not going to happen. But if they got Hamels, it's like, if you can't re-sign him and you like don't win the World Series and you give up prospects, which the Cubs have just an abundance of good young talent. That would be tough, I mean, that would, because it would all be, it would be pointless. Because I think the Cubs are good, and I do think they are. I predicted them to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to. It's just I don't know if I would necessarily compromise the future for just this season.
I think Theo would be thinking the same way as well, knowing that this year we're a little bit ahead of schedule. It's kind of playing with house's money.
Right.
And so we don't necessarily need to make a big move. Let's just see what we can do with what we have.
Right. And there's 2 wild card spots. I think they're going to get one of them. And you see what happens there. Even if the Cubs lose that wild card game, I think the season's still a success if they get that far. And
what do you think, Levi?
I would agree with that. I mean, I would love to say that no, I want more out of it, but to live in the real world as a Cubs fan, which is sometimes hard to do. But yeah, I think I would be happy. I mean, I would obviously be sad, and I want next season to come as soon as possible. But I think I could handle them just getting to the wild card.
It's a return to competitive baseball.
Exactly.
And I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, with 2 wild card spots now, that increases their chances. I think they're going to be all right, man. I don't necessarily. I mean, they're only 4 games out right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And the Royals, I hate to tell this to you, Getz, but I think if I had to pick the most complete team in the American League right now, I'd pick them.
Yeah, it's that's flattering. Right now, it's nice that they've been able to do what. They've been able to compile the record that they have, even though the starting pitching has been pretty inconsistent at best.
Ventura is definitely erratic.
Yeah. Most of the rotation has been erratic. And so, outside of Volquez has kind of been
somehow
the anchor, right. Go figure. But, once Ventura kind of gets his nerves calmed, where he seemed to be on pins and needles for those first several starts, throwing at batters and whatnot, Danny Duffy might not be in the rotation for much longer. But Chris Young's a reliever who's been stepping in, and I think I mentioned him on the last episode, and he's made a couple starts since, and he's been really solid. But yeah, that the offense, who would have thunk it, being so consistent? I think they're number one in runs scored, and number one or number two. Mike Moustakas is gonna, would get some MVP votes at this point in the game. And
he's the moose is loose, man.
Yeah, between him and Hosmer to make such a bounce back. Right. Granted, they both produced last postseason, but during the season, regular season last year, it wasn't. They were very underwhelming, and people were wondering about the future.
Looked like actually he was regressing a little bit.
For the playoffs. And so whatever changes, that made Moose is able to go to opposite field now and beat the shifts that are always put against him, which I think is great. I think this whole question about the idea of the shift being legal is kind of dumb. I think you're just playing statistics, and that's the fun thing about baseball is playing statistics, knowing that a batter is going to hit it over here or hit it over there.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
No, yeah, there should be never
be
as an illegal
last year,
defense.
Anthony Rizzo bunted to third a couple of times, and got no one was there.
Right, and you only got to do it a couple times to make the defense honest the next go around, and I think that's part of. That's something that makes baseball kind of fun, to see these big old sluggers have to do that, like David Ortiz have to do something like that.
Right.
But to bring in that strategy, and then for it, in a way, it kind of changed Moustakas' game, where he had to become the better hitter that he was kind of destined to become. He had to take that next step because these shifts were so obviously beating him, and so it made him grow in a way that was pretty important, and it's showing dividends now.
Absolutely, no, he looks tough. Levi mentioned Anthony Rizzo. That's a guy that in the National League would certainly get some MVP votes, I think, if the season ended today. Mm-hmm. Definitely, guys tough. And with the White Sox, like that, maybe it starts to look like we kind of now. The chemistry's maybe getting there a little bit more. They seem like they kind of starting to know what team they are, where in April, they looked pretty lost. So yeah, I'm obviously, I don't want to lose tonight to make it 3 losses in a row, but there's over the past 2 weeks we've played some pretty good baseball. We've won 4 consecutive series. If we come back tonight, we split it with Cleveland. So
yeah. Does Ventura last the season?
He might. I think he obviously has bought himself some time within the last 2 weeks.
But betting a week's pay, what would you bet if he lasts the season?
If I had to bet it today, I would say he gets through this season.
Okay.
I do.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. Obviously, when we made our playoff picks, I picked with my head and not my heart. I didn't pick the White Sox to make the playoffs. I hope I'm dead wrong. I hope they win every game until the end of the season. But, I don't see that happening. And I would still say that looking how they've played now, I think, I think they'll keep it interesting, and they might, for a little while, threaten to that wild card spot. But I just... I don't see it happen. I think there are some other good teams in the American League and other good teams that maybe have yet to emerge and start playing like good teams. Yeah. Like I think Baltimore. I mean, I picked them to win that division, and I still think they will.
Yeah,
I still think they'll come back. Yeah, Seattle. Levi, right? Levi was Mariners. Was a Mariners guy this year, and they haven't played terribly, but they haven't. They've been 500 or a little below 500. Yeah. They haven't just figured it totally out yet, but I think they will.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be fine. I don't think that division they're in is very good either. So, aside from I think the Astros, but I think they're going to come down to reality.
Everybody's waiting for the Astros to lose 8 out of 10, basically.
Yeah, but I think I said the Astros will come back down to reality, but I think it's a new reality. I think a new reality is I think they'll play. I think they're going to hover around 500 all year, maybe even finish a couple games above it. So and then be ready to really contend next year.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But anyway, so better baseball than when we met last time, definitely. And then also the last leadoff topic here, leading into one of our focal points for this evening. We certainly lost a legend within the last week in BB King. Rest in peace.
Long and productive and important.
Absolutely.
Career.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and he's got octogenarian up there. Or was he 90? I don't know. Did
89.
89. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't think he reached 90.
Yeah.
So yeah, still active up to the latter stage, the latter part.
It's amazing to think about between him, because he was in Kansas City last year, and then Johnny Lee Hooker was touring up until his final days.
Right.
When he passed away a dozen years ago or whatever. But it's amazing how those guys get it done. Yeah,
absolutely. So it makes you wonder, how is it going to be for Pete Townsend or Eric Clapton or somebody like that.
Mick.
Yeah, right, Mick. Yeah, hey man, they just played in LA last night.
Right.
So yeah, which they did Sticky Fingers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I forgot to tune into Periscope. I heard it was going to be broadcast on Periscope.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it later tonight before I go to bed. I want to watch some of the clips from that because the Pro Shot stuff is up there, So
yeah,
I want to see some of that. Definitely. But anyway, yeah, BB, rest in peace, and that got us thinking a little bit about the blues, its past, its present, and maybe its future as well. Obviously, it's really the main. Let me preface it this way: my opinion tonight is going to really be, you're going to hear. I can think something's really important and not listen to it all the time. I mean, like I love. I mean,
absolutely.
I obviously, like, the music I listen to wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the blues. But I can't lie and say that, I can't be disingenuous and say that, like, I'm listening to like Howlin' Wolf all the time or something. I should be, because he's awesome. But you know what I mean? I'm not.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's gonna like inform some of my opinion tonight. I can put something on the pedestal where it needs to be placed. As it should be, and like kids in school should like get Robert Johnson records and stuff when they reach kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know if like what it spawned is more important to me personally than the blues itself. So
right, it's evolution. Yeah.
So that's my lead off.
Okay.
But that said, aside from Stevie Ray Vaughan, to me, a lot of the blues made within the last, let's say, 3 decades, the last, 25, 30 years, isn't really that interesting to me. Things that get labeled blues, things that, like, if you go to a record store, things that are categorized under blues. I see some like, people like Jack White, Jake Bugg, like people like that who sort of took the blues and I think are doing very innovative things with it. I see that.
Mm-hmm.
But like the artists that are labeled blues, or that put, even some of the older artists that still put out blues records, it doesn't appeal to me. Like the stuff made within the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
Aside from Stevie Ray Vaughan. But I mean, that's been a long time ago now. So.
Yeah, I agree. It and what I think it almost comes down to is, in essence, like there hasn't been a torchbearer.
No, you're right.
Since then, and so maybe one of the last, or one of the one that's still kind of going. And I saw him live. Would be like 2 years ago. Was Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah.
And he was excellent live, and he would be the last of the kind of guy that could probably. He filled UIS Auditorium, and that holds like 2,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know of any other really touring blues artists that could do that.
Well,
now.
and to speak to that though, to exactly what you're saying, is I sold him guitar picks when I worked at a guitar store, and I didn't even know who it was, though I knew his name and I was aware of his career, but like he wasn't instantly recognizable.
Oh yeah,
and so that kind of
he's a pretty nondescript looking dude.
Right. And so meanwhile, obviously, if a guy like Howlin' Wolf strutted into a guitar store, you would immediately know it's fucking Howlin' Wolf, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of speaks to that.
Oh yeah. Another name that came to my mind who's trying to kind of do that is Tommy Castro. Have you guys ever heard of him at all?
I haven't. I don't think I know if
Yeah,
I
Tommy Castro is kind of along the lines of maybe like a Jimmy Vaughn type of blues guitarist. He's popular as well. There's a ton of them, and like I said, I think it comes down to there's nobody doing something that's original enough to be considered a torchbearer.
I would argue Jake Bugg is the closest thing.
Really? Yeah. It's interesting that you would say he's the closest.
Well, I mean, I know that his music will. I mean, he's kind of an indie darling as well, and he's pretty popular actually too. So
kind of pop at times.
And kind of poppy too. But to me, I mean, I think he's doing pretty interesting stuff. I mean, when I first saw the album and it said 17-year-old blues guitarist, 18-year-old blues guitarist, I was like, oh yeah, and like another like Johnny Lang,
Kenny Wayne Shepherd,
Wayne Shepherd, and then I heard it, and to me not the most recent record, but I think the one before that, it sounded like very Yardbirdsy to me, very like Yardbirds era Clapton, and I definitely got on board with that. Obviously, it's a little poppier. Some of the more recent record is, but I mean, I think him, and he's not going to get put in the genre. He's not going to get categorized that way. But I mean, I think Jack White does really interesting things with the blues too. I mean,
right, and just as much with roots, roots and blues.
That was the
Roots
word
music,
that was in my head, roots Americana, and I mean, blues is the ultimate definition of those two things,
right.
But I'm automatically always going to go towards those guys are more roots or Americana than I am blues.
Right.
Right. It feels like there's just, with the roots Americana, there's just a bit more breathing room.
Yeah.
And, the musicians can, in some ways, kind of spread their wings a bit more sonically, while with the really loyal blues stuff, it's very focused.
Yeah, it's 1-4-5 and
right.
there's about 10 scales and you move them all up and down the whole guitar neck.
And it's not to say it isn't like terribly well executed, because it is. It's
there are applications behind me that I love.
Right.
And
but you can do more with it, I mean,
absolutely.
it can manifest in so many different ways.
And I think that was the beauty of the blues. That's why we got classic rock.
Right.
That's why we got jazz.
Led Zeppelin.
That's why we got fusion.
And it was like I think it's like potatoes. Like, potatoes are like really crucial to our diets, right?
Yes.
Like, we eat them all the time. But you never just like boil potatoes and just eat boiled potatoes. You're like, no, like give them to me mashed, or give them to fry them up.
Oh yeah, tater tots,
au gratin. And so like that's rock, and that's that's jazz. That's like taking it to this other form, and applying different levels of heat to it.
Well, you had to start with that blues potato.
Exactly. And that's to, emphasize, that we know what's at the core of all of this, even though we might be kind of disenfranchised from the blues today, that we know that at the core of all of what we really enjoy is the blues.
And I think for the average listener, they may be, like you said, I think they may be kind of distanced from knowing the blues.
Yeah.
I think the music has funneled down now to where the blues is so far kind of removed, and in essence sometimes that people don't there are people who listen to new music who are never probably going to know who Howlin' Wolf is, or Elmore James, or any of the older blues artists, but they'll listen to people who were possibly influenced by them and hear things that they would have never known, that that is kind of, what I mean. They could then later, if they somehow heard the old blues artists, be like, wow, I can totally.
Where it begins.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, hip hop's the blues. I mean, like that's it comes from it. Yeah. So it's really it's the seeds for everything that everything that I listen to, essentially.
Yeah.
But like what would get categorized like at the record store as a blues album, I don't listen to that often
nowadays. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I put on like Muddy Waters once in a while, and I put on like Elmore James, and some of my Howlin' Wolf, some of my favorites. But those are all Well, that shit happened 50 years ago.
Right.
60 years ago. Yeah. So.
And my favorite stuff of that is it's when it's just really bare and it's barely more than vocals and guitar.
Yeah.
And it's just sonically it's captivating, and it's not kind of it's not like terribly tight.
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Very raw.
Yeah. And there's
a lot of it came out of Gabestown, Chicago.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
It's home to basically the home of the electric blues.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh man, we need to put a Muddy Waters statue downtown, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that is, I'm surprised that Chicago hasn't embraced that more, is to have like a national blues museum or something.
Right. I mean, I think the Delta region obviously probably gets more of the recognition than Chicago does.
Yeah.
For the blues. But I mean, I would agree with you. I think we need to
the electric
embrace it a little
blues,
more.
like all the
electric
Waters
blues,
and Howlin' Wolf and all those guys.
And another thing from Chicago, like, listen, I totally respect the guy, and I think I'm glad he's still alive, and I'm glad he's still playing. But, like, Buddy Guy hasn't really, to me, done anything interesting in, like, 30
Decades,
years.
yeah.
You know, I mean, like, his 80s stuff is kind of slick, and it sounds, just kind of... His newer albums just sound kind of overproduced to me. And, obviously he's getting a little long in the tooth. He's up there. But, like, I've gone down to Blues Fest a couple times, which is Chicago's free event every June. And, some of the lesser known folks play down there. And it's not interesting. You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds like... It just sounds kind of, it sounds like all like Mustang Sally and like The Thrill Is Gone.
It's just a little nondescript.
Yeah, right. So, I haven't really seen anyone down there that like, that interests me.
Yeah. Nobody like break. You're actually more likely to find a breakthrough kind of on a side stage. Somebody who isn't going to get that limelight.
Right. I think obviously one of the best, I'll give them a plug here, they're friends, the best sort of Chicago blues rock band is Steepwater. Steepwater.com for those who are listening. Saw them a couple weeks ago. It was great. But yeah, Levi mentioned a guy, Joe Bonamassa. While I think he's a really skilled player, I don't think he has a collection of great songs.
No, I totally agree with that, and I think that's the problem with almost the blues as a genre, is that you're having to recycle so many different rhythms and so many different, you know what I mean? Because there's 100 blues songs that all have the same.
And I think that's, in a way, it's a genre that's almost, it's just an artifact that's kind of, I wouldn't say doomed from the start, but it's inevitable that we would have gotten to this point. Yeah, it's totally inevitable, because if you want to be loyal to the genre as it's written, then that's what you get. You get this kind of after a while it's recycled.
Yeah, and the people that are really loyal to it say, like, trying to think of someone not young, but someone who's more emerged within the last 25, 30 years, somebody like Robert Cray. That's just not interesting to me, I mean, what people like that do. I respect them, certainly, and they're skilled, but just, and some of the other people we mentioned earlier, Johnny Lang, Kenny Wayne Shepherd,
yeah, those were two guys that I really got into, when I was 16, 17, those first two records for Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and then I heard Government Mule, and I was like, oh. This is what happens when you like add another layer.
This is what happens when you inject some Black Sabbath into it.
Right. And so it's just that idea of evolving it, just like, the Stones did, or anybody in the 60s and 70s. It's just, what they did, and they put their own spin on it. Well, yeah, that's what happens. And then it becomes, in my viewpoint, a lot more interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, good stuff.
But real quick though, to a real important guy that I heard when I was young on a blues compilation was John Hammond, and the son of the producer for Columbia, John Hammond Jr. technically, and the stuff that he did in the '60s and the '70s, where he intentionally did. Also, he never wrote his own stuff. He just said, and talk about, we talk about recycling, but he went back and he would take, the stuff that was already established because he didn't feel like he needed to write a song. And this is like the recipe for, boredom as far as the way we've been talking. But the spin he would put on it absolutely captivated me because for the most part, he would just do it solo acoustic and with this soul and this howl in his voice that was, made him my favorite blues artist, bar none, and he's still at it today, and he's put out several records. I've caught him a couple times, and yeah, John Hammond, absolutely my favorite blues artist.
Definitely, he's good. He's a good one, man. Absolutely. That said, talking about the blues, we've also got really baseball's forgotten color, which is the powder blue.
It was my birthday this last week.
So Jonathan has a good-looking new hat there, which the Royals wear as an alternate cap. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of this, though. Can you guys name all of the teams in the 70s and 80s that had powder blues?
Minnesota?
What?
Minnesota had powder blues.
Well, obviously the Cubs.
The Cubs had powder blues. The Blue Jays.
Cardinals.
The
right?
Cardinals.
Right.
The Expos.
Expos. Wow. I forgot about them.
Expos had baby blues.
The Royals.
Brewers. Who'd you say, Levi?
The Royals.
Yeah. The Royals.
Yep.
Yeah,
obviously.
Right. The Brewers.
I forgot.
Right.
The Brewers
had a baby blue.
Paul Molitor. I remember some of his cards.
I have actually one of my favorite pieces of clothing is a Robin Yount powder blue jersey pullover that I snagged for on clearance at a store north of Milwaukee a few years ago.
Nice.
Impulse buy Robin Yount vintage jersey.
Hell of a player, man.
Yeah.
Those are all the ones I can remember off the top of my head.
That's a lot. That's a large ratio of powder blues.
Right. I mean, yeah, you got a lot of teams there that had them.
Powder blue was the teal of the 70s.
Right. And now the road uniforms are just all gray,
Right.
So we're going to talk about now. This was kind of inspired by a couple lists. And I never read this guy before. He's pretty funny, actually. What is it? Is it Dane? Is that Dane Perry? Right?
Oh, I didn't see it on CBS Sports?
Yeah, on CBS Sports, right. So he ranked the all home uniforms and all away uniforms. He didn't do the alternates, which are some of the best looking ones, I think, are the alternates right now in baseball.
Yeah, but you got it. That's another article.
Right, that's another article. So we're going to talk about, inspired by that article, Jonathan's powder blue Royals hat. We're going to talk about what we think right now are the best home uniforms and the worst home uniforms. And then we could talk about the road uniforms as well, but I don't think there's a lot of material there because, they're all just that default gray. And really, I don't think any team, some are better than others, but I don't think any team has just bar none, an awesome road uniform.
Well, let's start with the road uniforms. Are they all gray? If for some reason in my mind, I made up a story that they're always all gray because back in the day, they didn't want to have to do a ton of laundry when they were on the road, like in the 20s and 30s. So they had to hide the stains by making them all gray. Did I just
Sounds
make
like
that
a
up?
very plausible theory.
Yeah. Because they just couldn't keep doing laundry like Rush does up on stage,
Right. But yeah, they're all gray. So it's really a matter of, with those, do you like the font? I mean...
And, what the Red Sox did a few years ago with their road unis now, which is kind of what they had in the 80s, I really like. It's really simple. It's just kind of a block lettering with a navy blue Boston across the gray.
Yeah,
and I think
those aren't bad.
And I'm not being a homer, so to speak, when I'm saying that. But yeah, I thought that they were pretty solid. But overall, and I'm a huge fan of their unis as a whole, are Tampa Bay's. And I think Tampa Bay has the nicest road unis.
You think so?
I do. I think that their blues, which is actually kind of similar to this Royals, the royal blue and the light blue
I would
that
say
they use.
it's a tad darker.
Yeah, right. It is. But I think as a result, because I would argue that they also have the best home unis, but I won't for the sake of this episode. But yeah, I think Tampa has the best road unis.
I like the new Miami, like just the
Do you?
Miami. It reminds me of like the '84 Padres a little bit. Just the jerseys that say just Miami across the front, and like the letters are kind of like have like colored outlines.
But yeah, I know what you mean. But they've still got the M with the like that.
It's just
like
the M.
weird looking. Oh, okay. They've still got the one with like the fish, like the M and then the fish, right?
I didn't see the fish.
Well, the one I saw with Miami is the Miami has the kind of the multi-stroked rainbow outline, and then the IAMI is plain.
Is right.
It makes it look a little off balance, but I know what you mean, Levi, because I've heard a lot of people like slam those, and I don't think that they're as bad as a lot of people think.
I would agree with that. I don't hate those uniforms. The Marlins uniforms that came about within the last couple of years. Yeah, I don't hate them.
If they were in any other city, I would hate them. But knowing that they're in Miami, I think they're appropriate.
We got to go down there. The three of us do. We got to see the weirdness that is the Marlins. You know what I mean?
Right.
That park's weird. The owner's weird. I think I've only been like to the airport, but parts of Miami like sound kind of cool. Funky.
I'm game.
My friend.
I'm game.
So yeah, all right. Next year, guys, we're
Field
on
trip.
it. We're on it, man. Live episode from Miami. Next year, folks. You heard it. All right, we're doing it.
It'll be on Periscope. Yes.
Next year. All right, that's our field trip for next year, boys. Start saving your pennies. All right.
But Levi, you said you didn't like the Cubs road unis.
Well, I don't like the Cubs powder blues that they wore last year. They wore them for a few games, and they're a throwback. And I think they're pretty much exactly like I think they were the 1980 like powder blue.
Yeah.
Because I remember I had a
blue
Bruce
pinstripes.
Yeah, and I had a Bruce Sutter card, and he was in them, and he looks awful in them. And no wonder he wanted to leave and be a Cardinal.
The Cubs did have one of the shittier, and I like most of the powder blues. The Cubs did have one of the shittier looking powder blues. I got to say that, man.
Even the Cubs fucked up the powder blue.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
You know, for road uniforms, like God, I don't have. I look at them all, like I said, they all just look the same to me for the most part.
Pretty much.
I have to admit, I think the Giants kind of look good in their gray.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think like the orange and the black looks good with the gray.
Yeah.
I like the font that they use. It's pretty straightforward, all caps. Gosh, like I said, there's nobody far and away the best here, but I would give the best road uniforms probably to the Giants, in my opinion. Yeah.
All right.
Now, where we get much more interesting, and where these teams really, this is how we know them, is with their home uniforms. So I've got a top three. If you guys don't have three, that's fine, but I want to hear your favorites.
I have at least three opinions.
Okay, all right, and then we'll do the worst home uniforms too.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, since you have all of these opinions, why don't you share what is your favorite home uniforms?
So, for me, to start off though, I really love vintage white, that kind of off-white that goes on and stuff like that. The Giants
like
use
cream.
it. The cream. The Phillies use it. I really like that.
Okay.
But that being said, going through all this stuff, the Dodgers is really sexy. And like I said, Tampa, I really like Tampa's color scheme. And by the way, Tampa easily went from the absolute worst uniforms in the history of baseball to, I think, one of the most tasteful uniforms in the history of baseball.
It was a big jump. It was a very huge upsurge in quality.
And
I
it
would
helped
agree
to
with
drop
that.
the devil from the name.
Right.
Which
the
did
devil
you know that
was keeping down those uniforms. Anyway,
when they changed their name, they had a curse jar that summer, where anytime anybody in the front office accidentally said "Devil Rays," I think they had to throw money into the curse jar to get them out of the habit. Anyway, so for me, it's narrowed down to a couple, and I would say, but my favorite is probably Oakland. I didn't know this until I saw
the Packers colors, huh?
Incidentally, yeah. It seems kind of sacrilegious for a Bears fan to say, and I just thought that the way that the colors work, especially, seeing them, because that ballpark is so big and there's always so much sun when there's not, rain like there can be there. But to see all of that, and it just, they really light up, and on baseball cards they look great. And sometimes they wear the yellows, but regardless,
I like those alternate yellows. Those are nice. Very 70s vibe to those.
But the green on the white with just the really elegant script for me is really well executed and kind of timeless.
I like the A's uniforms too. They're not one of my. I wouldn't put them in my top 3, but I like them though. And who doesn't love the white cleats? I mean,
right.
If we're gonna throw cleats into the mix as well, they definitely win that one. They've been wearing those since the 70s.
Yeah.
All right. So the A's, Tampa. Sounds like those are your top.
And Baltimore. Right? I really like
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Levi, what about you, man? What are the best home uniforms?
Well, I would say, in no order, I really like Kansas City. I just like the plain white with the script Kansas City. And I also, I'm not sure what the rules of this game are, but the Expos, man. I used to love the Expos jerseys.
Yeah.
I like pinstripes. And the Cubs, obviously I like the Cubs jerseys. Another team, though, I would have to say, it's tough. Sometimes, I don't know if they still have them, but the Rockies had some, black alternative ones one time that I really liked.
Right.
I thought I saw them last year, but I don't know if I've seen them this year. None of them are like that. Pop out to me that much. I like the Cubs. My favorite Cubs jerseys, one of the alternates, the solid blue with the C with the Cub that's like
just
the bear,
the seal, not the script, but just the seal.
Yeah. And I don't know how it works now, but I know back when Zambrano was a pitcher for us. Mm-hmm. It was up to the pitchers to decide what jersey they wanted.
Really?
I think it still is. I think it still is.
And so, like Zambrano was his favorite jersey, so the Cubs were in it all the time.
I was going to say, I always envisioned him
I do see Zambrano a lot. Now that I imagine him, he was in that jersey quite a bit.
They let the pitcher decide.
Yeah.
So was it the starting pitcher they let decide?
Yes.
For that particular day, which jerseys to wear? Wow. Yep. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Back in the up until the 80s or up until the 90s, that wouldn't have mattered because you only had 2 uniforms.
Right.
Now you've got all these alternates as well.
Now you have Throwback Thursday uniforms and Sundays. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, good choices there. I'm with Levi. The Royals cracked my top 3 definitely. I've always liked the darker blue. I always thought the Royals were a slightly better version of the Dodgers uniforms.
Oh, really? Wow.
You know what I mean? Because they're similar.
They are similar.
They're very similar.
I agree.
Dodgers are just a lighter blue, and the numbers are in red on the Dodgers on the front of the jersey. Right?
Which I'm kind of iffy about the idea of red numbers on there like that.
It works for them. I know what you mean. It would look better if it were blue, but I don't hate it.
If I grew up with it, I would probably love it.
My favorite, though, man, I got to go with the Orioles.
Yeah.
The dude, I love I know we're not talking logos here, but that's part of the uniform. I love that they brought back the cartoon bird. I thought that bird that they had in the 90s until just a couple of years ago was shitty.
It was the Audubon Society.
Yeah, all black hat.
Audubon Society.
Yeah, it totally was. But now that they got the tricolored hat again.
Yeah.
With the cartoon bird, but they updated him a little bit. Mm-hmm. Looks like he lost a little weight. He's a little thinner.
Yeah.
And just I love their orange and black I really like the Orioles take the cake for me. I'd put the Royals as definitely probably a second place. Third place, that said, I like the Dodgers. Dodgers are just a classic uniform that they've never really changed.
Yeah.
I should say they haven't changed it that much. The home one. So
I'm gonna have to check out that Baltimore logo. I didn't know they kind of like tweaked
little bit.
Yeah,
Look at them side by side.
He's got like white iPod earbuds and like a vape pen.
Yes, that's exactly. He's hipster. He's handlebar mustache.
He's got a vape pen and white earbud
It's
headphones.
the fucking Brooklyn Orioles. All right. So anyway,
now I did see one that could be a favorite of mine if it was a regular, and that was what the Mariners did the other day. So on Sundays at home, the Mariners now wear it's their contemporary design, but it's the old school colors.
Okay,
which would be gold and
like
a
the
lighter
gold and
blue.
like a lighter blue.
Yeah, and
Kind of
it
Brewers
is
colors, sort of.
it's
like Brewers' older colors.
Yeah, it's pristine and it looks really great.
Do they incorporate that pitchfork logo at all in any of their stuff anymore?
I don't know if it's like in that. They have like a compass
throwbacks.
seal. I don't know if it's in there, but yeah, they will wear
Sorry.
the throwbacks every now and again with it. But I think overall, no, they've abandoned it for that little compass deal. But to see that, and I thought that was an interesting take on an alternate, which was to use your old school colors with your contemporary
New
logo.
logos. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it looked pretty good.
Well, before we close this out, guys, I'm going to throw just a couple out there, and I want to hear if you guys like them or not. All right? The home uniforms. We're not doing road because, we've already exhausted that they're not that great. Nationals. You guys like them or not?
Yeah, I think they're good.
Levi?
Too much like Cardinals.
Okay. Yeah, the very similar Reds. I'll give you that. That said, the Reds.
No.
Which I don't know if you guys have looked at.
I think it's time for a new logo design for the Reds.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think
it's the Bear C. You ever notice that?
Yes,
it's the Bear
it is.
C.
Yeah.
Oh.
Actually, I had a guy the other day. I was wearing a bear shirt with the C on it, and he's like, "Oh, I am from Cincinnati." I'm like, "I'm not."
The Reds, right? Seriously.
No, the thing I don't like about the Reds is that black drop shadow.
I don't
think
like that black drop shadow. I don't like that outline either. No,
Absolutely
I don't like
horrendous.
No, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do a couple more. The Astros, the ones that they just fixed last year.
Huge improvement, too.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't like them.
Levi, you like them?
No, I don't.
No?
I'm not a big fan.
Don't you think they look like the 80s ones, kind of?
Yeah, they rescued the 80s star
they, like,
with the
revamped
H.
A little bit.
And then, but it's more of the slab serif block lettering.
I wasn't a fan of like the Bagwell era.
No, those suck.
But like, I don't know.
Levi, you're talking about those Bagwell ones, from like the 90s just up until a couple of years ago. The guy on that article calls it the what does he call it? The murdered starfish look. He called that logo. I thought that was pretty accurate.
They probably felt kind of loyal to him because they did make it to a World Series, though they were swept by your White Sox.
That's right. And don't you forget it, Houston. Okay.
It's so weird for me to even think of them in the American League still.
It is. It's
totally
still hard
honest.
to grasp.
Yeah.
It is. I haven't gotten used to it yet either. One other observation. The pinstripes, not a lot of teams have them anymore.
No.
I don't like them.
The Yankees will always have them. The Cubs will probably always have them.
And here's how I'll stick it to the Yankees. I think they look better on the Mets than on the Yankees. So fuck
they
you,
do look
Yankees.
better on the Mets.
I don't mind the Mets uniforms.
Right.
I wouldn't include it in my top 3, but I would include the Mets. Like if I had to make like a top 10, they would be in it. I don't mind the Mets pinstripes. I like the orange and the Broncos kind of color scheme as well.
And the problem is, I think, for the Yankees is at least the Cubs like kind of changed their logos throughout the decades a little bit, because you could go back and there's like a 50s Cubs, a 60s Cubs, 70s. The Yankees have basically had that same uniform for decades upon decades.
Yeah.
And I think now it's like it's one of those cases they've let it go too long to where if they do try and change it up, they're going to have people. Yeah.
No, they won't.
Yeah.
They won't ever.
They can't even like change the spacing on the pinstripes. People would just be up in arms.
Right. Yeah, they can mess with the road uniforms all they want, and they really haven't altered those that much either.
Not really.
But I was talking about the pinstripes. Twins got rid of their pinstripes a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yep, they don't have them anymore.
That. Oh.
Which, not that like the Twins pinstripe was that historic. The Phillies, I feel like sometimes they got them, I see them, and sometimes they don't.
But yeah, I think the Phillies' best uni is the vintage white with no pinstripes and just the red Phillies across it. I think that's pretty awesome. Though I do like the Giants, even though I hate the Giants as a Rose fan. I do like their cream home unis. Those are pretty damn awesome.
Okay, I'll throw one out there since we haven't talked about it, guys, and I want your honest opinions. What do you think of the White Sox uniforms? Because we've already talked about the Royals and the Cubs.
I consider them a classic. I mean, I think the White Sox
pinstripes.
The White Sox home uniform is almost kind of Yankee-esque in that I think if you guys tried to mess with it too much, people would freak out.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, yes, we've had it now for almost
20-something years, yeah.
91 was the first year we had those, I think.
So what was it before 91?
The Luzinski.
They were ugly. They were
the Greg Luzinski, no?
No, the Greg Luzinski one's good. The 83, those are good.
Oh, those are good. What was the ones in between?
87 to 90 to 90. We didn't have them for that long. No pinstripes. Like a navy blue and a red, kind of like the colors from the 80s, and it's like a cursive kind of capital C.
Chicago?
That's right. It's the cursive. Yeah, I never liked that.
It's not a good looking uniform.
Frank Thomas's rookie card. He's in that.
Right.
Yeah,
It's very vanilla. It's it's uninteresting.
You're right.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm glad those didn't last long. I like the White Sox uniforms. I think we have the best black of any team, in my opinion.
Yeah. The best ironic black.
Yes. I'm kind of an 83 guy, though. I kind of am a Greg Luzinski guy. Like, I just want them to go back to 83, because they wear those all the time now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're beyond Sundays. Like, they'll wear them, like...
Which starting pitcher has taken a liking to him?
Sale likes them, dude. Yeah. So, and a lot of the players like them more too. Now, when I go to the park, I would say that, like, I see, and I'm just estimating here, obviously, I bet 35% of the colors in the crowd are the 80s.
Wow.
Yep. It's that popular.
And it's. I mean, I guess maybe they could update it a little bit if they wanted it to be a regular.
Yeah. They might, like, keep the Sox font. They might kind of cut down the red a little bit on the sleeves.
Right. It's odd to have red in that uniform when there is a Red Sox team.
Right. I like those. They're kind of like so ugly they're pretty, it's one of those things.
Right.
So I like those. All right. Any other? Okay, worst. Let's go on to worst. I'm going to start this one. They haven't been around that long, but the Diamondbacks have never had a good-looking uniform.
No,
the font they
haven't.
Agreed.
No.
They started with those god-awful purple and green uniforms.
Right.
Like,
the Luis Gonzalez.
What the fuck? Purple and green?
Yeah.
And then the ones that they've got now, the logo's ugly. The font is hideous looking. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to, like, say, like, we play in the Southwest, with that that font. But I don't think the Diamondbacks have ever had a good looking uniform.
Agreed.
Now,
and they abbreviate the name where it almost says D-bags.
That's stupid. That's just dumb.
You think that they wouldn't do.
So I don't like their uniforms. They're my least favorite. Not too keen on the Rangers. For some reason, I just don't think that's a great looking uniform. I don't like the T. I don't like the logo.
Yeah.
The Padres is moving in the right direction. A few years ago, the Padres was easily the worst in all of sports. But I feel like they're evolving a little bit, where I kind of like just like the stark navy blue with the stark gray and nothing else.
I don't mind they've got better looking road ones than home ones, because Like the Padres to me will always be brown and gold. I mean,
yeah.
that's the Padres like we all knew right when we started.
They should just wear the
baseball
'84
cards.
Padres jerseys.
I know.
Like every game.
And then because the Padres really they changed their color scheme entirely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They basically isolated their old logos. You know what I mean?
I don't like that.
You can't incorporate them in unless you bring in new colors with the old logos, I guess.
To me, the Diamondbacks, Padres, and I don't like the Brewers uniforms either.
Yeah.
I like the old Brewers uniforms. I like the Robin Yount Brewers
Yeah.
uniforms. But when the Brewers went darker blue and that gold, I think their font is ugly. The script is ugly.
Yeah.
I don't like the numbering on the back, too. I don't like the way their numbers look. So those are the worst to me. The San Diego, Arizona, and the Brewers.
Yeah, the numbers are a little Times New Roman, which is you never want to see for the Brewers there.
So what do you guys think are the worst-looking uniforms?
I would agree with you. And, I mean, to go as far as, I guess the next level would be overrated. A lot of people highly rank the Cardinals, and I think it's overrated.
I would agree with that.
Anytime I can put the words Cardinals and overrated in a sentence, I'm going to do it. So yes.
And actually, I think the Red Sox are a little bit overrated.
I've never been crazy about it.
Yeah, they're one of those ones people consider like a classic, and I've never really seen it.
That's just it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I always liked the '80s Blue Jays logo.
I like those too. I like the fact that they kind of did the same thing as Baltimore. They kind of updated their old uniforms. They brought them back and updated them a little bit. So I don't think the Blue Jays would be an honorable mention for me. They're newer ones, the ones that they brought back within the last couple of years, because I think they did a good job of kind of modernizing an older looking uniform.
I liked the era with like the names on the back, and then the numbers were like lines. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I can vividly remember like an Olerud card.
Nice.
Right.
Did you see at one point Tampa in the last couple of years, they wore faux throwbacks.
Faux backs, faux backs.
Yeah. If they had a team in the 70s, this is what their uniform would have looked like. That was ingenious. Yeah.
It's pretty cool, man. Yeah, it kind of looks like the late 70s, early Mariners a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, that's a uniform rundown. Good stuff, guys. Enjoyed that. Hey, if you're like us on Facebook, if you follow us on Twitter or Instagram at RockInChew, that's Rock in as in Otis Nixon Chew. You can follow us there. Tell us what your favorite uniforms are, what your least favorite uniforms are. We can do today, yesteryear. So you can talk about all those on social media. And then also you can visit our website at rockchew.com, and you can see our whole archives. We've got links, videos, a lot of good stuff up there, good-looking website. And you can listen to any of our episodes you'd like. And now...
Closing it out.
Now, where we go is we talk about some albums that we would like to recommend to you. And these, sticking with our blues theme of the evening, Levi, we'll go ahead and start with you. What do you think our listeners should listen to?
This is an album called The Legendary Son House, Father of the Blues.
Oh, yeah.
Produced by John Hammond.
Oh, his dad, yep.
And it's got all the Son House classics: John the Revelator, Grinning in Your Face, Preaching Blues, Death Letter. And I got this record, I want to say probably in like 1998. And I bought it, I still have the price tag, from Euclid Records. It's a record shop down in St. Louis.
Nice.
And for all the kids at home, if you want bonus points, that was the record store that Uncle Tupelo worked at.
No shit.
Before they got big.
No shit.
And so it's just a great album, and it is folk blues, like it says, Father of the Folk Blues. So it's not your electric Chicago stuff, but you can just hear literally like the blueprint for all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I sometimes wonder where Warren Haynes would be without Sunhouse, because it seems like a lot of Warren Haynes's blues stylings are directly derivative of his style of blues.
Yeah, and to hear, to go to a mule show and like the first notes were Warren singing "Grinning in Your Face," solo a cappella was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. And so I highly recommend this to anybody getting into the blues. It's a very good starting point.
I'm going to listen to it tomorrow on Rdio, adding it to the queue.
Speaking of Warren Haynes, I'm going to go next because Warren Haynes played for this guy for a little while in the early 80s before he joined the Allman Brothers. This is an album that is not by a blues artist per se, but it is a blues record that he put out in 1970, and that's David Allan Coe's Penitentiary Blues. This was obviously, as the title indicates, he wrote most of the songs when he was in prison, and then he most of the songs are a lot of the songs are about being in prison, but there's also kind of some voodoo elements to it. It's just a really fun record. It's kind of reminds me of kind of Dr. John a little bit. It's got that kind of feel to it. And it's really kind of, it was just remastered, I don't know, probably within the last 10 years. And I bought the, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I bought the remastered album, and it comes with a lot of really cool information about the album. And, it sounds really good. It sounds raw, though, still. So they remastered it, but they didn't really strip it of its purity. So, David Allan Coe's Penitentiary Blues.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll check that out as well tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm going John Hammond. Country Blues is what it's called. So to kind of segue from David Allan Coe.
On Vanguard, right?
Yes, on Vanguard, 1964, I believe. I forget where I got this. And actually, right when you said Euclid, I was thinking, I wonder if I got this at Euclid. But anyway,
they've in the last year or two, they've 180 gram remaster reissued that. I want to say it was on one of the last record store days.
Really?
It was either the Black Friday or the main record store day.
Wow, that's intriguing. I might have to look for that then. On here, Traveling Riverside Blues, Statesboro, Milk Cow, Bullfrog, Drop Down Mama. First time I heard Drop Down Mama, John Hammond do Drop Down Mama was on one of his solo live albums, I think from the 70s or 80s. And I thought there were three dudes on stage when I was listening to it. And I looked at the credits, and no, it's John Hammond solo. And just what he was able to do with the foot stomping, with the slide acoustic, just the slide just flying off the neck of the guitar. Just like you could hear it banging on the frets. And oh man, it ate me up. He had me from that. And this Country Blues is, a really young John Hammond. And like I said, it's really, most of his stuff is pretty raw, stripped down, just solo acoustic and vocal mainly. And I can't recommend it enough.
Nice. Good choices all around, guys. I'm going to mention this. I've got the page up right now as I was looking through some stuff, because I saw this exhibit when it came to Chicago. Oh gosh, it's been about 12 years ago. There's a blind artist named Sharon McConnell. She's a sculptor and a painter, and just does really cool stuff. All of the living blues legends, she's made like death mask of them. It's I'll post the link, but it's McConnelldickersonart.com. And you'll see it up there. And I got me thinking of it because my wife did some of the promotion for the show. Like I said, this is like 2003, 2004. It was in Chicago. But yeah, her name's Sharon McConnell. She's a blind artist. She's based in Mississippi now. They're just really, really cool exhibit. So nice. Yeah, check it out. I'll post the link. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, we'll post it on the episode page.
Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff there all around.
Yeah.
Well, guys, see you soon, and everybody again, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RockinChew. And then also you can check out our website, rockchew.com. Until we meet again, have a good night.
Peace.
Hola.